give us a little. I know you're so politically connected, and that give us the inside scoop.
Oh, sorry. No, it's I was actually up in the hill this morning. Can you hear me okay? Because you guys
Yes,
are coming
sir.
in a little.
Coming through loud and clear.
Okay, great. No, I was up in the hill this morning because my job, I'm part of my job is to do a lot of liaison with Capitol Hill and stuff like that. But you know, there's definitely a lot of buzz. People are excited. We did very well last year. I know we didn't win, but we moved the needle to basically 13%. So just something that Joe Biden won by 19 points and we lost by less than 6. And so there's a lot of requests for us to run again next year, but for a higher position, because anybody who runs a statewide in Virginia, the hardest place they had was where I lived. And so with that, they're doing the math, and they're saying, well, if you did this well there, if you do what everybody else does in the rest of Virginia, you can actually win by 3 points for statewide, and statewide being, you know, Senate. And so we're prayerfully considering it. And so we're doing a lot of things on the side to prep in case this is what we want to do. But other than that, I still have a job, so I'm delivering a lot of things out there for the military. So I'm the vice president for Navy Marine Corps program. So we're trying to put a lot of things out there to thwart the Chinese, you know, basically the Chinese invasion of our space here, go through the skies, through with balloons, with you know, stealing technology through the a lot of the student research, right? So there's 300,000 Chinese nationals in our universities, and so that's where a lot of research is done. So a lot of intellectual property is being stolen, as well as DoD projects, because we send a lot of our projects to universities to do research. And even though it's not, you know, by themselves, they're not classified, but when you aggregate them all, then it becomes a classified program, and then they have the plans to the F-35 strike fighter, joint strike fighter. We're also putting things on the border, because a lot of there's an uptick of 900% Chinese nationals come across, you know, military age males come across the southern border. And, you know, most of you guys should know your geography enough that China is not in our southern border. So, you know, it's like the little turtle you find on the fence post, right? He didn't get there by himself. And so we got to wonder how that happened. So it's just all that, and what they're doing, the saber rattling in the South China Sea and everything else too. That's really threatening our really our way of life as well. So I'm delivering a lot of the technology to the Department of Defense, as you know, as an operator, to be able. I mean, we have amazing engineers here, but you know, they only think one way, and so when you open up their aperture and explain to them where they need to focus their attention, then they can basically hone all their skills to deliver what's important for us. But all this comes back to leadership, right? I mean, it takes leadership to get a lot of this stuff done, and leadership begins, you know, I think at a very young age. You know, the adage question is always like, is a person born a leader, or you learn it? And I think it's a little bit of both. You know, if you're born in with it, then I think just, you know, it's just like martial arts. There's kids that are just, man, they're so gifted. They pick things up right away, and some other kids they need to be a white belt a little longer, you know. And so we need to work towards that. But like leadership, you know, it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of teaching them, and you guys are doing it from the ground up where you are.
Yeah,
that's it.
We appreciate all you're doing, and feel a lot safer with you watching our backs there.
yeah. And
Oliver, if you could, I didn't introduce Captain Cal appropriately, so maybe you could do the honors and let all of our new members who maybe haven't had a chance to meet him personally, or weren't in Annapolis, or down in Florida at his naval base.
Yeah, absolutely. And Captain, let's see, Captain Cal retired. We'll make sure Master Smith doesn't keep demoting you to commander. But
I think I said captain. I didn't think I said commander.
Yeah, no, I think out of the last 32 times you're at 29-3. So we'll stick with Captain here. But Captain Cal, one of the you have been directly involved in working with our team 3 times that I recall. Twice when we did very high level behind the scenes at Annapolis, and your insights into the leadership development process and the process that happens there was invaluable, to say the least. But really, I think one of the best was when we were down in Panama City. Tell them a little bit about your time in Panama City and what the objectives were of that training school, and if you don't mind, because I don't think we have anybody on the meeting here who was at that meeting. There, I may be wrong. There may be 1 or 2, but it was interesting. As the general reaction before we went was that what does going to a diving and demolition school have to do with us? And then everybody who was there were just shocked at how many takeaways and lessons there were. So if you don't mind, start with that posting and tell us a little bit about what you accomplished and how that worked.
Yes, sir. I think Karis was there.
Oh,
right.
That's right. There you go.
And of course, you two were.
Yeah.
You and Grandmaster Smith.
Well,
No,
Grandmaster Smith wasn't there. That was when he missed his.
Oh, that's right. He
flight
left
because
us.
there was a blizzard. Yeah.
He left us. That's right.
Master Moody was there, but
Yep.
and Mr. Dunn was there, but Master Smith
Yeah.
was.
I
No,
actually
so,
got certified right after that meeting.
There you go. There you go.
That inspired him to get over the hump.
I think actually, if I remember correctly, Bob went, "Holy crap! I'm glad I don't have to do this under him." To be fair, but tell everybody a little bit about that, because I found it fascinating, and of course the level of attainment that the fairly young recruits there were having under your tutelage was amazing.
Yes, sir. So, at least, I should, while we're talking, I'm going to try to bring up a video if I can. I don't know how well this will work, but yeah. So the Naval Diving Salvage Training Center was where I commanded down in Florida, and there's about 12 to 1,400 students a year that train there, in everything from basic scuba, so it's a 6-week course, to special operations insertion. So all the Marine special operations divers, the Air Force pararescuemen and combat controllers, the Army combat swimmers, and then Navy deep sea divers and Navy EOD divers. So the guys who defuse bombs underwater and stuff like that. So there's about 1,400 students come through every year, and a lot of them are from the age of 18 to 24. That's the key note. Now there's many other courses too, and they're able to let me see. I'll show the video in a second. So basically we're teaching them from never diving before, and we go, part of the training is you go down there, you kind of, I don't know, beat them up a little bit, rip off their mask, spin around, just see how they work underwater. And then afterwards, then you give them you let them work with explosives underwater. You let them use torches and do underwater welding. But what it is I always tell the students when they first come there, it's like, look, if you're weak, we'll make you strong. If you're not comfortable in the water, then after we're done, you'll be very comfortable in the water. If you're stupid, well, we'll just do push-ups until you get smarter. But what I can't do is give them a heart, right? It's really the heart inside that matters. And so they need to dig deep and find the heart inside them. And it could be anything. It's just a lot of this generation doesn't know how to fail. And I think I've said this many times, where the first time I ever failed in my life was my 2nd degree black belt exam. And it was hard. I lost that. And at the time I had been, star student all the time, always doing well, and everybody expected you to do well. And then you fail. And it took me a year to recover from that, to have the courage to come back through and really pass with Grandmaster Reed and Grandmaster Smith at the time, pass with flying colors afterwards. But to find the resilience to come back was really difficult. And we had a student at dive school. He was a recruited runner for Stanford and for Penn State, and he decided to enlist and come into the Navy. And my instructor said, sir, this guy has never seen failure. He's in such great shape. He's so smart that we don't think he's ever known what it's like to have setbacks. And they wanted a permission to do what's called redlining. And that's some, you know, I don't condone all the time, and they have to have special permission from me. And basically, for me, anytime we do physical training, one instructor has to go all the way through, because it'd be easy if one person just, you know, I go out there and say, okay, we'll just do pull-ups till our arms fall off. Then Grandmaster Smith comes in and say, hey, we're gonna do squats until our legs fall off. And then Grandmaster Moody decide, hey, we're gonna run until our legs fall off. Well, then it's not fair, because, you know, of course I can take them to the max, but then then I have to do the rest of the stuff. So I require for one instructor to do everything that the students do, to make sure we're not putting them under undue, basically unrealistic goals. But when we redline them, basically they were going to tag team. Basically, one guy's going to run them hard, and then the next guy's going to run them hard after that, and just to push them to limits. And this kid quit dive school. Once you say I quit, it's over. You know, you can't, no takebacks. He quit on a run. He's a recruited runner, you know, for Penn State and Stanford, and he quit on a run because he never knew what defeat was. And I think that's what we can teach our kids, is resilience. When they first started SEAL Team 6, Dick Marchenko didn't pick the first guy to graduate from BUD/S, which is a basic underwater demolition SEAL school. He picked the guy who barely made it across, because he said, you know what, that kid knew what failure was like, and he would never fail again. And so he was right. And so this is, I think it's a good thing for us to teach our youth, is how to recover from failure, how to pick yourself back up, dust off, and keep going. You know, like, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Did it hurt that I didn't get elected last year? I mean, we came so stinking close. It did, but the thing is that it's not my, you know, for me as a Christian, you know, God doesn't promise that we're gonna be successful. You just expect obedience, right? You just got to pick yourself up. And what am I going to do? Cry about it? Like, you know, you rub some dirt into it, and you keep moving. And that's what, and then this other opportunity came up where I was called up to the Senate about a month ago and asked to run for the U.S. Senate seat. So, you know, and since then, you know, other senators have called me their office and or their homes to ask to compel me to run. So we'll consider it. But again, I think the best thing we could teach our youth is resilience. So let me show you real fast. Let me see if I can do this. If I can share this screen real fast. Hold on 1 second while we're doing this. Doggone it. Hold on 1 second while we do this. And I think you can see, get a taste of what we do there.
Bob, our permission set for him to do that?
Yes, sir. Hold on.
Okay.
I guess there's a commercial in there too, somewhere.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I'm gonna share the screen real fast once we're there. Okay, hold on. Let me share. Doggone it. How do I share? I know you guys.
There's a button at
Yeah, share
at the
screen.
bottom that says share screen.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
But I can't get to that right now for some reason. Hold on here. Aha. Okay.
It's good to recover from failure, Captain Cal.
So unfortunately, I used to have AT do this stuff for me, and so it's not that that's an excuse, but let's see here. Can you see it now or no?
No.
Yeah.
Doggone it. I promise I'm not this much of a. Where's the Zoom thing?
Yeah, that's always my problem, is the Zoom screen keeps getting hit, and then I have to.
Yeah,
go back.
it gets hidden in there, and I don't know how to. It's hidden. I promise we're in there, and if I click on the thing, then it says, do you want to leave? Oh, forget.
Captain Cal, I have watched a number of Senate hearings with various high-tech people, and you will be the most knowledgeable of the senators.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, just say bye.
Did you try reducing the size of the Zoom
And-
screen?
Don't take a technical advice from Master
All
Smith.
right. How about
There
now?
you go. There you go.
All right.
Yeah,
And then if you hit full screen mode on that on the right of the photo, you should be good.
Bottom right.
Yeah, there you go.
Like that.
Yep, there you go.
Do you hear anything at all or no?
Not yet.
So no sound at all?
No sound.
No,
I got it. Of course, it's buffering.
well, I'll tell you what, send me the link and we'll post that in the.
Yes, sir.
minute.
I'm sorry. I'm so
No,
sorry
that's
about that.
or if you
Well,
like, you
So
can
much
send
for
it,
for technology.
well, you can
Let me
send it
just
to
share
me
the
and I
screen.
can share it for you, sir, if you want, and then you can talk about it afterwards. If you send me that, just text me the link now, I'll share it. Because
Yeah.
I can make sure it gets done and then we can,
Yeah, that's a good call.
yeah, and then
Sorry about
share it
that.
to me,
Again,
share it to me while you're
Technology just
talking.
never cooperates with you. But if you think about it also, how amazing is technology? And that's the resilience of our nation, right? To be able to, even in the midst of COVID and everything else, we're able to come up with alternate ways to make it happen.
Yeah, I
yeah.
lamented many times what would have happened in
Right.
the pre-Zoom, pre-YouTube, pre-online video era if we had overreacted to that 15, 20 years ago the way we did this time.
Yes, sir. No, absolutely. And like I said, it's just sad what we did to businesses, and like you guys are the hardest ones to hit, because it's like, how are you supposed to teach kids when you're not there and check up on how they do stuff,
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's sad.
We were in a unique situation to see the radical difference between members here who are in, say, Seattle, or in New York City versus Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia, and so forth, and the radical difference in process and outcome that happened there.
Right.
And even worse in Canada.
Oh, I know. It's terrible.
Yeah. But moving right along, and we'll see if Master Moody can recover that for
Yes,
you.
sir. Let me try again. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to find the link here and send it to him on phone. But if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer anything you guys have.
You bet. Any and everybody feel free to chip in. And Bob, we've got some new members here with us today. So introduce anybody who's here for the first time. I know we have our music school VIPs here with us. So welcome, guys. So Bob, go ahead, do that.
Yeah, welcome Antonius and Valentina. Glad to have you guys on here. Let me see who else might be new that
Happy to be here.
is on.
And guys, let me give you a little bit more of introduction. You guys have 3 locations, one in New Jersey, 2 in Texas. One of the 2 in Texas is a relative startup. The other is a more established location. The location in Jersey is an established location. In fact, Paul Pendergast, I saw just Paul, raise your hand down there. We're going to have to connect you guys up with Paul when you're in Jersey. He's in Brick, New Jersey. Between the 3 locations, if my memory serves well, you're at about 2,500 active students, which is translating into, if I remember correctly, about 3.5 million in revenue, plus or minus a couple $100,000 between the 3 locations. And so very impressive top line numbers. And between all of us, what I want to do is pair you up with Paul, because his top line is not nearly your top line, but his bottom line is nearly the top line in a couple of these locations. So Paul, I've been using you as an example since you share multiple locations and share in New Jersey, the difference in profitability. And everybody who's been on these meetings for a while knows, we're targeting 50 to 60% to the bottom line. And if we're hitting less than, say, 30%, we're pissed off. Paul, and Jan, is that a fair assessment?
Yep, sure is.
Yeah. And guys, Jan's another one you should talk to. Jan's down outside of Jacksonville. Jan, what'd you do last year? About 1.5 million in one location?
Is she on here right now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
Hi,
you,
Lisa. Hi.
yeah, you're just a shadow
But-
with a window.
But yeah, she's actually
Sorry.
doing really good. They're definitely doing better this year than last year. So yeah, they're doing amazing. It's about that.
Yeah, I was mistaking you for Jan since you're just.
It
a shadow.
happens a lot, or Rachel. So
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, it's the backlight. You know, all we can see is an outlet.
yeah, sorry. It's
There you go. There you go. Okay, back to you, Captain Cal. Any questions for Captain Cal so far?
I guess one thing that I would love to know in regards to just teaching leadership, Captain Cal, if there's one aspect to start with in regards to teaching individuals leadership, what do you think would be the most important?
That's a great question. I think, you have different things in your life that you want to, or different, how do I say, pillars that you have that's important to you. For me, I think the most important pillar of all leadership is humility, right? Just to learn that there's always somebody above you, there's always someone better, someone faster, smarter, whatever, but really you always answer to somebody. And you guys as school owners, you answer to the parents or the customer, right? And so that's what you need to teach them, is that no one's ever above anybody else. That there's always somebody that's higher than you. And so I think if you look at all the leaders in history who failed, right? Like Nixon, everybody, they just thought they couldn't get caught. Like no one would ever catch me, or that they think they're better than the rules and the law. And so that's the biggest thing we need to teach our kids is your students. And I keep saying kids. I mean, I know we have adults too, but it doesn't mean they can't learn. They're all your pupils. And we just need to teach humility first and foremost in anything when it deals with leadership, because just like to lead, you have to learn how to follow first. So likewise, to be a good leader, you have to learn humility first and foremost, and then everything else will come after that. Because that's what learning to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, doing the right thing because no one is watching. Those are things that come with humility that you'll teach your students.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Other questions?
And trust me, Grandmaster Smith has humbled me many times as a young instructor when he doesn't, he had this, and I tell people this, he'll come up and he pinches you right underneath the armpit. Oh my gosh, it hurts like the dickens. And you're like, you're trying not to cry in front of everybody, but but it does remind you. It's one of those things where it's tough love. I mean, but it does remind you, like you're representing not just you're representing school, you're representing the art, and so that's why it was important for us to carry ourselves in a professional manner all the time.
I found the oak-like leg kicking me in the floating ribs was a little bit more of the wake-up call, but to each their own, Captain Cal. Okay, Captain Cal, on the we didn't give a very full bio of you at all, and I think there's any number of interesting things about your background, and what's particularly useful for us is the direct leadership of small teams and large teams of people, and the educational development of those future leaders, in my opinion. But I'm going to go off the top of my head here. One of the first interesting things about your bio is being basically the first person to ever flunk out of Annapolis and then get readmitted, and then graduate with flying colors after the fact. Then you ended up with any number of postings. But tell everybody how your career at the end of the career, you were basically in charge of huge chunks of Afghanistan after leaving the Pentagon, being in charge of basically the U.S. Navy budget and Pentagon liaison with Congress. Tell them about those last couple of pieces.
Yes, sir. So my last job at the Pentagon, the two jobs before I retired was I was in charge of the Navy's budget. I balanced and we wrote and balanced the Navy's $140 billion budget, and it's a tough thing, right? Because there's gives and takes, and you can write a budget just fine, and then then the Secretary of the Navy comes in and he says, I want this, and okay, so you got to rebalance it again. Then Secretary of Defense wants this, and you got to rebalance it again, and then it goes up to the the presidential budget, and then Congress has their hands in it, and even when it comes back, there's these taxes, right? So just like with anything else, the top guy will take what's called a withhold. So they appropriate all the money for all these things, and then you get the budget back, and the Secretary of Defense will take a little withhold, a little tax from it, so he can fund his own personal projects. The Secretary of Navy does it, the Chief of Naval Operations, and it goes down. And just like with any third world country, everybody takes some from the top, and by the time it gets to the peasants, they don't have anything. And so then we have to figure out how to rebalance it and get enough ships out there, enough aircrafts. Because one thing, you think it's so easy. Oh, just take a chunk off of this. Well, for example, the Littoral Combat Ship is built in two places: Pascagoula, Mississippi, and Bangor, Maine. Well, and so if you take one ship away, then you have to take the other ship away, because the congressman from that district is going to say, why'd you take mine and not the other guy? So you have to take two ships away. And it's not just the price of the ships, $545 million, but it's also the weapons that go on board, the people that go on board. And so it's never an easy thing. And even it's taken away, like, hey, let's just take out one F-35. Well, we can't do that, sir. It's $135 million, but it goes below the economic order of quantity. And so you actually pay more for less. So if you take down, if you take away one and you're not building that many, then it actually costs more. So there's a break-even point. And so those are the hard things that we spend weekends upon weekends in the Pentagon for. So I was very glad to leave that job. And I was offered a command of a task force, but my wife was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to move around. So I asked for another job, and I went to the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, where I stood up a brand new division called Operational Effects, which has sensitive activities. And so we did a lot of things like sabotage, subversion, and military deception. I had a lot of SEALs and really more Green Berets than anything under that unit. And we did a lot of things to the enemy. So, for example, if I want to tear down your house, I can do it two ways. I can take a bulldozer and run it over, or I can set out a bunch of termites and let it eat away at the foundation, let it fall upon itself. And that's what we did best. How do you do red on red? Cause the enemy to fight each other. When I grew up, one of my favorite movies, mine and Phil Barudi's, Grandmaster Smith, was They Call Me Bruce. It's an 80s cult movie, but this guy goes, hey, he's like, hey, who's these two guys come up and try to beat him up, and he said, oh, who's your master? He goes, oh, Master Tongue. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. We're from the same master. Two pupils of the same master can't fight each other. So the other guy says, hey, I'm on Master Cho. He goes, great, you two can fight each other, right? And so I know it's a stupid movie, and it's just one of those things you have to be really bored to watch it, but it's great, right? You make the enemy fight each other, then we're not fighting ourselves. We're not in the fight ourselves, and so that's really what I did at the end of my career. I ran that, but then something happened during COVID, and the guy in Afghanistan was he was really ill, and so I had to go over there to run what's called counter improvised threats. So it's anything from improvised explosive devices, right, IEDs, to drones. Drones are a big problem now, and so I did that for the entire country of Afghanistan, and we left there. I left there in January of 2021, and again, 6 months later, we know what happened, and it was just sad to see. And so then I retired, and then I ran for office. And again, it's one of those things where all this leadership builds upon itself, and it wasn't for everything I learned as a young boy, taking martial arts. And I know I keep going back to that, but that's where you look for in your life where your pivot point was, and that was it, right? Just being able to get the confidence to stand out there and to say things and do things, and just like people ask me, well, how come you can answer questions so well on the spot? I'm like, well, you ever had students where they just ask you the most insane things in front of everybody else, and you try not to laugh, and you try to give them a serious answer, and you have to think about it. But that's really the secret to be able to speak on the spot. you teach a bunch of students and let them ask you, you know, what if I don't know, butterflies came out of the sky with machine guns? You're like, I don't know. Then I guess we're dead, right? And so that's really the resilience I learned from years and years and years of martial arts.
Great. And Adam, you had a question.
I had two questions and a comment. So first is I watched the debate and sent to Grandmaster Oliver. Your opponent, when you were going against her, she sounded like a robot malfunction. Even the comments were saying like she was all flustered because you were answering the question so good. And even the crowd was giving you a standing ovation. And your audio was not working as great as hers either. But my second question is, so I've had one student graduate from West Point, but when people put black belt on their application to go into the Naval Academy, does it take one step higher? Like I said, a student gets accepted at U of M. Everyone plays baseball, everyone plays soccer, but black belt, they show perseverance. Does it help that? And the last question is, I'm starting a podcast in a couple of weeks. It's going to be called Leadership and Life Lessons. So hopefully, it can be one of my guests. But my question is mainly with black belt, for resumes, does it show that do they look at higher because it shows they stick with someone 4 years, or black belt just not really their idea for them?
I think all those things definitely help, right? I mean, it's like being an Eagle Scout, that used to be something revered, very revered. And so likewise, we need to make the being a black belt, but really not just a black belt, but also an instructor is really going to be really big. And unfortunately, sometimes nowadays there's a lot of fly-by-night schools that everybody gets promoted, everybody gets a trophy. So I wish we would get away from that, but it's really it's not just the black belt, but hey, the second, third, fourth degree are really important too. That it shows you just didn't just do it, got it, and left, but you stayed around. And it's how they write their applications too. It's just you can't just say, "Well, I was black belt." No, you have to say, "I." That's where I started learning. Right, the moment you get your black belt, or like the moment you get an Eagle Scout or anything like that, that's when you really begin to learn and see and show what the return on investment was. I taught all these kids how to do that, and I helped run a school, or really I mentored others. It's not just hey, I got this, this gold star. It's I got it, and this is what I did with it. So you need to follow the rest of the story. And I'm sure Master Oliver will. He's more than happy to forward you my information to you, so we can if that's what you want to do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can we go? Yeah, like life skills, leadership lessons with podcast, but I appreciate it. Thank you again for the tour. We had a couple
Yes,
of homes.
Yeah, and to add to that, Captain Cal, is a high level of mastery of something that required perseverance, required long-term follow through, and then ultimately conveying that knowledge to somebody else is the part that really is impressive to people, right? So if I'm whether it's West Point, Annapolis, Stanford, or in the job market, that I stuck with something for 10, 12, 13 years, that I taught, mentored, gave back. That's what's going to be impressive. Somebody can, has a talent, whatever it might be. In our case, they can kick somebody in the head. Well, nobody really cares about that. But the perseverance, the accomplishment, the giving back, teaching, the leadership skills developed, that tends to be the element that's most important. And Jason, you had a question for Captain Cal?
Actually, another question, sir. When we were in Annapolis last time, one of our guides was Captain Chip Seymour, and I talked to him, and he did a podcast with me, and I specifically asked him the question Adam just asked, which is because for 20 years he worked in administration. His job was to figure out who got accepted and who didn't, and he said that on average he'd have 10 people, only one would get in, right? And he specifically said, I did look for a black belt. Doesn't mean I would get them in, but that person went to the higher level because I wanted to see something you've done for a good number of years, and you've done it on your own. Mom didn't do it for you. Dad didn't do it for you. You did it. You have good grades. That could be because mom helped you with your homework all night, right? So he specifically said that, and again, for 20 years he was doing that at Annapolis. So I just wanted to echo that too.
Yeah,
and I would just like to add a few things, Master Oliver. I've had the privilege of watching Hung Kao from a young schoolboy and up through middle school and high school, and turn into one of our top instructors, and then his Naval Academy training, and his perseverance on coming back. And basically, when they accepted him back in, what he had to do to get back in was a test of perseverance, because really, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Captain, I don't think up until that time they ever had anybody come back or accepted anybody. But after they did accept you back, and because of how you reacted when you came back and your accomplishments at the top of your class all the way through, after that coming back, that they instilled a program that did allow people from then on, that they had this second chance operation in place. Is that, am I stating that correct?
No, sir, you're absolutely right. Thank you for honoring with that. Yeah, it's just one of those things where someone's got to set the trend, right? And so that's what you will teach your kids to do, is to not take no for an answer, and be the trendsetter, be the the trailblazer, the person who makes things happen. Just because someone said no, or for me, my motto has always been, I'll find a way or make a way. And so that's what we need to teach our kids too, is just that taking no as an answer is not good enough, and you keep, I don't want to say pester them, but keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because if there's an opportunity, if there's that one chance, that means there's a chance.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever told you, Captain, obviously, since I got to see you come all the way up through the lower belts, all the way through your black belt and everything, and put you in our instructor training program. And when you passed all of your tests with honors, we had a special award we gave, kind of like our A students at the graduations. We would call the outstanding students of the month. And he was always passing with outstanding. And then when he got his black belt, he was testing for his second degree, and he had, anybody else would have passed, but because him always being outstanding, I knew he didn't apply himself and achieve the level that he should have achieved. And a lot of people were shocked when we failed you, but for me, it was a test to see if you were really, really serious about your martial arts training, and could you come back and really show us that you can be that outstanding student every time. And when you did it, it was, that's why, when you came back and tested, you didn't just pass, you passed. And it's always the hardest to get outstanding at the black belt level testing. It's easier in an underbelt setting to get outstanding, but when you get to black belt, it's hard enough for most people just to pass it, but to pass with outstanding. And that's really why we didn't pass you, because you weren't at that outstanding level that we thought you could achieve. And the thing was, you proved us right way beyond that with your military training. And after you graduated from Annapolis and you became an underwater demolition expert diver, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on some of this, but one of the most decorated underwater demolition divers, and had more dives or more demolition dives than I would say one of the top, if not the top, in the Navy. Maybe tell everybody, that's, guys, you have to realize you're going down underwater. Underwater is bad enough. It's hard enough to defuse a bomb above ground, but now you're underwater and you're down and real deep. These aren't near the surface. Sometimes they're far down there. Maybe it might be interesting for them to hear a couple of those stories of.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. No, thank you. First of all, there's one thing I did pick. You said I was one of your best students, but my paycheck never really showed that. I'm just kidding. No, I was very fortunate to.
The fact that you had a paycheck showed that.
That was it.
No, I was very blessed. I got to do a lot of things. I recovered John F. Kennedy Jr., his wife, his sister-in-law. I have a couple of the airlines that crashed, a couple of jets that crashed, but and those are always hard times, right? You're going down there and you're bringing people really bodies back for closure, and those are all these things that haunt you. Later on, I diffuse IEDs on the battlefield, a lot of them, or, you know, sometimes what we did, we had to piece them back together, and you know, you're digging through body parts to find pieces of parts and evidence to see how it works and how it functions so that you can keep it from happening again. Diving wise, I mean, yes, we've gone deep. I've gone to 300 and something feet. That's on mixed gas, and then beyond 300 feet is actually saturation diving. So that's where you're using you're staying down there for long periods of time, because you might as well if you're already down there. So for example, if you go to 1,000 feet, it takes 11 days to come back up to the surface. So they put you in a chamber, and then they slowly recompress you. It's a 1 foot an hour, and then but really there's some other scary things too. You know, it doesn't have to be deep. It could be under 5 feet of ice, for example, because under 5 feet of ice is pitch black underneath there, and so people get lost very easily, and you can't find your way back, because a lot of times when you breathe out your air, the air that comes out of your compressor, it's warmer, so it'll pool up there, like kind of like the way mercury does, and it starts melting just a bit enough water of the ice away that it pools. It starts pooling up there, and in a panic, you would actually think it's the exit. And so, you know, and you get lost and run out of air and just die. And so we can't put ropes down, because the icebergs kind of they shift and it'll cut the rope. And so you have to go down there, and what we do on the surface is we shave away concentric circles around the hole, and then like wagon wheels all the way across, so that when you drop down, you can see your way back, because where you shaved off the ice, where you shoveled off all the snow and then shave off the ice a little bit, the light shines through. So it's a really weird, it's a weird feeling to be under all that ice. And so that's what we did in the in the service of this nation. We did a lot of very secret things underwater as well. You know, I always tell people that it was the saturation divers that single-handedly won the Cold War for us. You know, what they did underwater to help us win against the Soviet Union back in the days. We played a very high stakes game of poker, and we knew exactly what hand they were holding because of what these guys did in the 60s and 70s. So, you know, again, I was very blessed to do so many things. I worked with the FBI on many years. I was in the Joint Terrorism Task Force. I was with the agencies. I did a lot of things with the SEALs and the Green Berets. And again, it's just, you jump from one thing to another, and it's neat war stories, but it's, at the end of the day, it's about leading people, right? I mean, I didn't do it all myself. My guys, the men and women under my command did all that stuff. And it's to be able to lead a team to go do that, to really do things just as, like, I don't know, we set back the Iranian ballistic missile program by a year or more by what some of the things we did, you know, and that's all I can say about that is we severely set back the ballistic missile program significantly by some of the sensitive activities we did. And so those are, but again, it's I didn't do that. One person can't say they did it. It was a whole team, but that team depended on the leader to have the vision and the ability to do that, and also take the blame, right? The leader's job is always take the blame, right? Because you know, when you're high-fiving each other at the end of the day, patting each other on the back, then that's the easy part. It's when things go very wrong that you have to step up and say, hey, the buck stops with me, and then I'm the one responsible. And that's the integrity we teach each other, our students, is when something goes wrong, step up and take the blame.
And you know, Master Oliver and I both had the privilege of attending your retirement at the Naval Academy, and that was quite impressive. Of course, all the medals on your chest are also quite impressive. But you know, the send-off they gave you for your retirement was you know, very, very impressive. But even your guest speaker, and I know he was such a big supporter of you, and And from what I remembered him saying and some of the things you said is he was the one responsible for getting you to even run get into your, throw the political hat in there, was Oliver North, who was a very famous a war hero too, that I had a lot of respect for.
Well, let me, Captain Cal, we want to be respectful of your time. I know you're running a bunch of different directions. And what were there some specific leadership lessons that you learned by running for office? I'm sure that was a completely different experience than your experience in the military for
Oh,
better.
yeah. That's right.
Yeah,
The first
or-
thing, if I ever wrote a book, it would be everybody's a consultant, right? Everybody wants to give you their 2 cents and, hey, you know what you should have done is, and if you won less than one election, then I really don't want to hear from you. And so, right, just like with your schools, there's how many parents come out, hey, you know what you need to teach these kids is that, come on, unless you've done it, please, I mean, you're respectful. You're like, oh, thank you. Let me take that into consideration. But really, there's a lot of people that advice is free, and so you get what you want. And so, look, you guys know what the right thing is. You know what works for you. You know what works for your schools. Then trust in those in your instincts. And I always have 3 people in my life, right? For when it comes to anything I do. And it's the first thing is a mentor, right? You need some mentors. Again, Grandmaster Smith and Master Oliver and Master Moody have been great mentors of mine in the last few years also. And you have all these mentors to teach you the way. And then you have the students, you have your disciples that because the best way to learn is to teach. And like I said, just when I really learned about martial arts is when I became a black belt and having to teach it. And that's when the learning really begins. And really the third person is that accountability partner in your life, someone to keep you straight, someone to say, we in the Navy, we call running mates, but somebody that runs alongside you to say, hey, I don't think what you're doing is right, or I don't think that this is what your original goal was, or it's not looking good with you hanging out with that one student all the time. And so those are the 3 people I always have in my life, because it's so important to have that mentor. It's so important to have those students or disciples. And it's very, very important to have that accountability partner, somebody that you trust that won't tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
Yeah. And so I've not too charitably referred to what you described as the bozo explosion of consultants, people who are mostly good at pitching you on buying their services to get bad advice. So it sounds like the political arena is overflowing with those as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So from a standpoint of just interacting with the wide range of people you had to interact with, were there behavioral changes that you had to consider, or how was that environment?
Well, I mean, you have to be careful what you say. I mean, not that you shouldn't change who you are just because you're doing something, because then you won't be genuine.
Sure.
Just like being an instructor, you have to be who you are. You are your own person. And so just trust in yourself and your instinct. Now, certain things you got to be careful, because people are always recording you. Today with the iPhones, right? Everybody's walking around.
Yeah.
I mean, they could stick this literally right in their pocket and the camera's out and they're talking to you. And some people are not that conspicuous. They stand there with this phone there. You're like, that's like, why don't you hold it up so you can see me better? But but again, we should never say, how do I say that? It's just like standing in front of the classroom. What you say in the classroom, you should say outside, because you never know going to a restaurant if one of your students is there and they're like, I heard him curse like a sailor, and so that's you have to carry yourself like that 24/7. And again, it's just discipline in how you are, because anywhere you guys go, your students could be there. If you're losing your temper and doing stuff to people, or yelling at them and or just berating someone, then you're really not living up to the same code that you guys are teaching your students.
Yeah.
And so, just like with sailors or anybody else, right? Your students, they may not hear everything you say, but they'll watch every single thing you do.
Yeah, yeah. I've often described that as you have to be completely congruent. Whatever it is you're saying you are, and whatever it is you're teaching other people to be, you better be congruent in yourself to actually be that. And we have all kinds of stories about why you can never, you're never off stage. If you think on stage, off stage, you're never backstage in any kind of public arena, whether you're running a school or you're in a command position or in politics. It's the old thing of, always behave in your private life as if it was going to end up on the front page of the New York Times or the Washington Post. Because if there's anything you wouldn't want the public to know about, then it's probably something you shouldn't be doing to begin with.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very, 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 very good. Anybody have one last question for Captain Cal before we shift gears and let him get back to his busy life?
Of my day job.
Your day job, yep.
Of your job.
I have one, sir.
Captain Cal, before she jumps in, I want to re-invite you to our Black Belt retreat this fall up in the mountains. We keep looking for an opportunity to promote you beyond the the rather lowly rank you left with on the way into Annapolis. But if it's in any way possible, let's get you up to. I think we're going to be in Breckenridge this year. In fact, I see Amanda and Steve Christensen. What is our date this year, Amanda and Steve? Or Allie? Anybody who knows more than I do?
As of right now.
November 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So if there's any way, shape, or form for you to make that, we would love to do it. And I promise you, we will promote you beyond your last promotion with.
I'm just worried about having to acclimate myself to the high altitudes.
I don't think it's nearly as difficult as the 400 or 500 feet underwater that you've accomplished. Go ahead, Karis.
Hi, Commander Cow. Yeah, so a conversation that our
Captain.
staff has
Captain.
Captain Cow. A conversation that our staff has been having lately is about keeping our standards high, even though it seems like more and more it's counterculture, and the discipline, the expectations for good behavior, even just being on time. There's less and less support from teachers and from parents, I should say. When I talk to teachers, they feel less and less support from administration, that sort of thing. So, we've been kind of talking about how it's tough, but we still need to keep our standards high. One of the things I remember most about walking through and doing the tour down in Clearwater with you is that you said you kept your standards high for the training, no matter what. It was regardless of gender, age, any background, anything. The standard was high because that's what benefited the individual, but also the group. And if you lowered it or, made any exceptions, it would be detrimental to the group. And that always stuck with me. And as our culture has changed as of the last few years, I've often thought about that and wondered, how did you navigate through that? How have you kept those standards high? And what would be your advice to schools like us who are really just trying to just really combat this culture lately?
No, that's a great question, because honestly, like I said, I think I said this before when I gave you guys the tour, was like, the sea is unforgiving, and things like hardship and war, it's indiscriminate. It doesn't care who you are. And so we're preparing people for war. And likewise with you guys, you're preparing these kids for the challenges of real life. And I know some of these parents are I don't know. I mean, again, I blame it on this generation that they all got trophies as kids, and now they're adults, and they're like, well, why shouldn't my kid get this too? And that's the problem we're having, is that these kids that got all trophies all the time for participation are now adults. And so, but your job is to develop leaders in society, right? And be ready for challenges of life. And maybe it's something that you have a contract with the parents, where you say, hey, here's our side of the deal, where we will develop your child, but then we need buy-in from the parents too, that you have to allow us to discipline them. You have to allow us to hold them back if they're not ready. This is not one of those things where, hey, in 2 years you automatically get it, whether you're good or not. the standards are there for a reason, and I guess turn it back on them. Like, what do you want your kid to get out of this? And then you say, well, in order for them to get there, they'll say, well, we want confidence. We want them to be self-assured, that we want them to complete things. Then, okay, well, we can't teach them that unless, you partner with us on this. And maybe it's a contract when they sign their thing, it's a contract on their end to meet you halfway. Also, that means, hey, you have to get your kid there on time. Got it. If there's sometimes that things happen, right? I live in Washington, DC. I mean, this traffic is, you can never, you just can't anticipate it. You always add an extra 15 minutes just in case. But, yeah, they're going to get punished, but it's just one of those things to learn. They'll be stronger from it, and just let them learn from the mistake. Trust us. We've been doing this martial arts schools have been around for so many years, for 60, 70 years at least. I don't know the number, but they work for a reason, right? I mean, it's not soccer practice. It's not football. This is personal conditioning and leadership development.
Yeah. And I might remind everybody of the book, The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt, which is a really good recommended read. We've even required all the black belt parents to read that and Free Range Kids, both very good books. Karis, I might add one thing, and I'll let Captain Cal get on with his day and turn you over to the capable hands of Master Smith, Master Moody. You always want to be clear in your values, and to the extent that you're attractive to an audience, you're also repellent to an audience. And the worst thing you can do is try and be all things to all people. You're much better to stake out a position, be really firm in that position, and then let some people, run away screaming, and hopefully make your position really clear early on. The idea that the customer is always right is certainly not true in an educational environment. You want to be very clear on what you are. You want to have excellence in everything you do, and you do not want to accommodate every whiny mom and one thing or another who comes in and wants their kid treated in a unique way. What you want to do is have a very clear expectation. And of course, we know what our standards are different for year 3 and year 4 than they are for year 1. But you want to be very clear on your expectations and don't bow to the whims of what tends to be a fairly small minority that are going to, I find we attract people who aren't thinking that way as much anyway. But the minute you capitulate to that, you start to water down what you are. Would you agree with that, Captain Cal?
Yes, sir. I absolutely do. Don't change your values because it's worked for us this long, right? I mean, it's worked for us. Look at all of us. It's worked for us so far. So why would you change it? Kids are still kids, and martial arts is still martial arts, and it revolves around discipline.
Yeah, and if anything, they're not getting it anywhere else. They need to be getting it with us.
Yes, sir.
Right. Well, thank you, Captain Cal. Everybody give him a round of
Thank you so much.
appreciation here.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I will hope that I have your permission to wrangle you into our environment more often now
Yes,
that
sir,
you're
absolutely.
not actively running for political office. I guess the next round would be what, 2024?
Yes, sir. It'll be next year. But
Okay.
if you say you're running by law, you have to now you have to file within 5 days. So we're still thinking about it until this summer.
Yep. I got you. Well, I hope you win this time, and you certainly made a good run for it last time. So congratulations.
Again,
on
going
that.
back to it's not about just winning, it's giving people hope. And likewise with you guys, you're giving these kids hope and a vision. And so there was a lot of people, I'm still getting stopped today at the supermarket or the gas station or wherever, people thanking me for running. And because we moved so many people, we gave them that hope they needed. And sometimes it's not about winning or losing. It's just showing who you are and showing them that, hey, we have all the same values here. And so, and failure is just never getting up, right? Failure is not from never falling down. It's from never rising after every fall.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. On that note, thank you, Captain Cal, and I'm going to have to leave you with Master Smith and Master Moody.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Sir.
Thank you,
Thank
Captain. Thank you, Captain. Okay, guys. Master Moody, I don't know what was on your agenda. I was going to, I've been doing some progress checks with some of the members, and there was a couple of things that I wanted to remind everybody on to make sure that that we're green and growing. And everybody knows our saying there, you're the green and growing, which means your active count is going up, your gross is going up, your student value is going up, and or you're ripe and rotting, which means active count is going down, your gross is going down, or your student value. So that's why I put together that stat sheet. And if you don't have that stat sheet that has what last year's average was, what January through December of this year on leads, appointments, intros, enrollments, renewals. Then after renewals, you're going to need your total gross, your active count. And it's important for you to understand your numbers. Don't just look at the numbers, but be able to, the purpose of doing your numbers is so you can take control over what happens with them. You know, every time I go through a school's numbers, I can see what we call the holes in the bucket. In other words, why isn't their school doing more? And then the schools that are doing more, why aren't they netting more? And so you have to go through your numbers. Once you find what's making those numbers grow, then you got to go back and do your ROI, your return on your investment and your marketing, what that student value is, and then what is that net to the bottom line? Some schools are grossing a certain amount. You know, I was talking to one of our schools that was just coming up in the numbers, and his gross was around 50,000, you know, relatively new. But what was happening is that at 50,000, his expenses were so low that he was in reality a $70,000 school as far as net goes. So don't always just be concerned about the gross. We have to have the gross going up, but we also have to keep an eye to that bottom line. So don't let your numbers get out of whack. And one of the best ways to do that is to keep your eye on your student value. So we have a better feel for, are we at that, you know, we talk about those numbers, and, you know, with our new member with 2,000 students across his multi-schools there, that's quite a number, you know. In our martial arts schools, if they had 2,000 students, you know, they would be in heaven. But obviously our schools aren't big enough to hold that many, but you'd over a multi-school level, you could. But the idea is, how much are you netting off of those? There's systems that you need to have in place that we need to evaluate to make sure that your school is producing what it's the gross and the net that it should be producing. So when you look at those numbers, some schools say, well, how do I get more enrollments? And we always know with the top line, you know, the key to getting more enrollments is to get more leads. But then we have some schools that are doing a lot of leads, but they're not real efficient on down the line or proficient converting those numbers. And that's why it's so critical to look at those and see where the hole in the bucket is. In other words, what are our norms? What's expected? How many, if we get this many leads, then how many appointments should we get? And out of those appointments, how many of those should take an intro? And then out of the intro, how many of those should be enrolled and how many of those should renew? Well, when we're looking at those numbers, because that's our monthly summary, and the summary is for us to take a look and see where the holes are. And then we've got to do a little finer analysis. So we need to make sure that we're not just keeping those summary numbers, but then I want to know where my leads are coming from. So I like to divide it into 3 areas. You have your internet marketing, you have your internal marketing, and then you have your external marketing. And we have different things that we're doing in each of those fields, but if you can just take those in general, and then out of the leads from each of those, how many of those are you making an appointment for? We know that some of the events that, or some of the marketing that we do produce a much better appointment or a much better show rate on intro. Well, you have to analyze in your marketing, which ones are you getting the best return on and why? And then start doing a little analysis of what you need to do to focus your marketing in the right spot. So you're getting that return. You know, I was looking at 2 different schools comparison. One was doing about 25 enrollments a month. One was doing about 20 enrollments a month. And, you know, you would think they were pretty close then. They should be pretty close. And then when we pulled down the numbers a little bit, we saw that one of them had to do twice as many leads to get that amount of enrollments. You know, if one school was doing half of the leads and they got 25 enrollments, and the other one was doing twice the leads to get just 20 of the enrollments. Well, that's nothing wrong with that. You know, I always told my schools, give me 20 or 30 enrollments every month. Give me at least 50% renewals, and you're doing a good job. And some schools, I have seen some schools get 20 to 30 enrollments with 80 leads. I've seen some that take 150. I see some that take 200. Well, when you have somebody that's working that hard to get your leads, they're doing the leads based on your staff that you have trained. Remember, we can train our marketing person to get more leads, but if we don't train our staff to convert those be more proficient or efficient at converting those numbers, then we're not getting the bang for our buck. We've got to make sure that we start looking at the appointment, the leads to appointment. What percentage? Well, we have a lot of schools to compare. What do we consider norm? Well, if it's a live event, we know that most of our schools, I've seen them as high as 80 or 90% of their leads are making an appointment. But then I've seen some of the internet marketing, whether it's Facebook or Google, those percentages could be as low as 30%. Well, where are you in the realm? You know, one of the things Master Moody and Master Mahler both said all the time with your leads in general in internet leads is the quicker you can get back to them, the higher the appointment ratio goes up. And if you wait the next day or 4 hours later, so that way, that's why you need your automated systems in place to make sure that you're getting back to them quickly. And the best time when they're online and they opt in on one of your marketing, whether it's Facebook or one of your other internet lead versions or website or whatever, is you got to get back to them right away. Call, text, and email. If you cannot do it yourself, you know, have somebody responsible for it, have it automated. So an automated voice message comes back to them, a way for them to opt in. Some of the schools, the way that I had them start improving their show rate, which will also improve your appointment rate. And and you guys will know how many times I've said this, but I still only see a few of our schools doing it, which it's not that hard a task, especially since we have a bunch of them to go by that have already done them. And that is, where is your intro video? Where is your video? And I don't mean do a video of an intro class. The video is for people who opted in or you got a lead for, so you can send them a link to a video that's going to walk them through what your school looks like. See, and I like it to even start from the outside in the parking lot with a big picture there of your school entrance. And then you're going to tell them this is, this is TM Martial Arts. And here's our parking. We have plenty of parking here. We're located right off the road. And now you're giving them a little instruction on where we are. Come on inside and let me show you our facilities. And now they come in. And then you've got your staff at the door. A receptionist is there and they're meeting and greeting when you come in the door. And this is where our parents sat. And here's our classrooms. Here's some of our students. I've done one of these when I went to Tim Harrison's school and some of the other schools. And then I'll take a sweep of their walls to say, so I get a feeling, is this a black belt school? Does it have, to be a black belt, you got to train like a black belt. They have their students' pictures of in a black belt that have set their goal to be a black belt. So they're future black belts, and they're at the bottom of each of the pictures, it's the class of 26 or the class of 25. And they go around and you see all of these students that have made that commitment to black belt. Well, it becomes a domino effect when you get these students that have accepted the basic program that they want to be a martial artist. And then it's not about being a basic student for a year. That's not what we want. What we want is somebody to go to black belt and beyond. That's how you double, triple, quadruple your grosses. It costs $0 to renew somebody. We're spending $200 to $500 marketing for an enrollment. And that enrollment is worth about $3,000, maybe a little more at some schools, maybe a little less at others. But when we renew them, they're worth $20,000 to $40,000 on a renewal. And so what happens? Everybody's focused on the marketing and the intro and getting them enrolled, but they're forgetting about the renewal. I ask you guys to do a little analysis for me. Go into your gross, and you can do it for the year, you can do it for last month, it doesn't matter what your average is, but go through and out of your gross, let's just say from last month, March, because you need a full month, how much of that gross was from a basic student, and how much of that gross was from a black belt or leadership student? In other words, this part is from our renewal, this part is from our basic student. Now that accounts for any extra stuff they buy or purchase. Was it a basic student? Was it somebody who's renewed? And once you do that, if your numbers, 60% of your gross should be from renewals, 40% from enrollments. Now, I've seen some schools that are 70-30, 50-50, and then 40-60 the other way. But realize that the real value to increase your student value is in the renewal. Well, of course, we know we cannot renew somebody if they're not there. So that's where retention comes into play. We can't always just be chasing new students and not taking care of the ones we have. So guys, make notes of all these little things that we need to be checking when we're looking at our numbers. Is our retention, is our dropout rate too high? We have to get it down to the 1, 2, or 3%. And if we do that, and then we're getting enough enrollments, 20 to 30 is what I'm looking at, that I'd like to see you do. And then we should be renewing as a minimum 50% of those students. Well, if our basic program is $300 and our Black Belt or leadership program is $500, and we renew half of our students, where's my math majors? What student value does that give us, Stephen Dell? It's your unmute button.
You said 3 and 5, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
$400.
So simple, $400. So we get 300 students spending an average of $400. We're doing $120,000 a month. Well, we have schools that are doing that. Well, we have some schools that are only charging $250 on a basic. We have some that are charging $350 on a basic. We have some that are charging maybe as low as $300 on a Black Belt and maybe as much as $500 or $600 on a Black Belt. See, you've got to establish your price point, because based on the size of your school, there is a capacity, you can reach a capacity. So if we fill up our school completely at these real low prices, then we'll reach a ceiling. So the only way to grow past that is to raise the prices. Well, it's all based on what you're charging now. And we have seen most of the schools that came in that were charging half of what they're charging now realizes that it's more about the value you're giving than the price you're charging. You've just got to make sure that your program is delivering. We've got to make sure that, I gave everybody what I call my magic numbers were the 300, 300. Okay, get 300 students paying an average of 300. Well, we know that we have a lot of schools that are way past that now. They're past the 300 active student. I think Amanda Olson she told me that she had 345 now. And we have some schools that have a little more than that. We have some that are below that. But then we have some schools that have as much as a $350 or $400 student value. So always be looking at those numbers, your active count and your student value. Because if we want our gross to go up, we've got to get either one or both of those numbers to grow. If we're charging, let's just say $250 on a basic and $350 on a Black Belt, let's say, which would be the lowest prices that I would ever want to hear, that's still a $300 value. See, I didn't even set the bar high for you guys. That's a 300 student value. And if you have 250 students, then you're a $70,000 school. Well, if you're doing your expenses right, that's a lot of net profit. That's why Master Oliver says that you should always be at least in the 50% profit. Well, there's certain things that you have to have in place to get that to that line. If you're not keeping your numbers, then we can't even analyze these things. If you're not keeping attendance, then it's going to be impossible for us to know what your retention is. On retention, we found just by renewing people, that brought our retention numbers up, made them better. Just by getting them to commit to a longer vision of your program. The mistake that a lot of schools make in trying to renew somebody is they try to renew them from the office and not the classroom. The guys that are doing it right, and you guys know, when your instructors are doing a good job and they're selling from the floor, in other words, they have planted this seed in this student subliminally, consciously. There's visions on the wall of all the signs that are saying a black belt is a white belt who never quits. We are a black belt school. To be a black belt, you got to train like a black belt. And then we got to start teaching them how to reach those goals by using the vision sheets, by using the vision boards, by having black belt goal setting season. I talked to one of the members this morning that was doing their spring renewal blitz. Well, I always like to do our blitz twice a year. And he wanted to call it a spring Christmas special. And I told him, I said, what sells the program is not the special. It's not the price. Don't focus on the price. Focus on the benefits. Focus on the goal. So call it your black belt goal setting season, our spring black belt goal setting season. This is the time to recommit your goal to black belt and beyond. Don't forget that once they set that goal to black belt and renew, we still got to keep them from dropping out. So that means they need to be doing a vision sheet. He asked me, well, should this just be for my basic students or should everybody do one? And I said, well, do you want everybody to be a black belt someday? And he goes, well, yeah. And I said, okay, might be a good idea to do it then, huh? So don't just focus on the basic students and do what I call throw them over the fence once you renew them and then expect them to make it the rest of the way to black belt on their own. We have to hand carry them through. How do we do that? By taking responsibility of keeping them into class twice a week. What do we tell them? What does training like a black belt mean? How do you explain that to the students? Because you have to explain it to them to make sure they're doing it. I explained to them, if you want to be a black belt, you got to train like a black belt. A black belt is coming to class twice a week. A black belt, when he comes to class, is giving 100% effort. A black belt, if he misses a class, makes it up. We've got to program our students not to drop out. Remember, prevention versus cure. It's easier to prevent the dropout than to cure it once it happens. Remember, if somebody drops out, that means they've been gone for a month or more. We then officially count them as a dropout. Much harder to get them back than when they just miss one class or two classes. The schools that are getting down to the 1, 2, or maybe even 3% are doing it because they're not just tracking it on a monthly basis. They're not just tracking it on a weekly basis, but track it on a daily basis. With the attendance cards that we have and the way we can track whether they showed up or not showed up, it's easy to go into our systems and pull out the ones that didn't show for class today, call them. And when you call them, what you say to them is going to have a major impact on whether they come back or not. We're not going to call them to say, where were you? You weren't in class. Why didn't you call us? See, we're not calling to reprimand them. I'm calling because I was concerned. I wanted to make sure that they weren't injured, that they were okay. They didn't hurt themselves. They're not sick. So just checking on them. Wanted to make sure we keep you on track for your next testing so you can graduate with your fellow classmates. Everybody understand? And that call, usually, if that class was at 5 or 6 o'clock, then that call, we have a couple hours. We have some windows in there that we can make a few calls. Either our program director calls, or maybe we have an office assistant or a receptionist who does it. But they have to be trained to be looking in those card boxes. They have to know after that basic class, they better go look at that card box. Well, why do I focus on the basic? Because we have found that 80% of your dropouts happen in the first 6 months. And most of those in the first 6 months are not students that renewed. 90 or 95% of those that drop out are the ones that never renewed. That's why we tell you, if you want to get somebody renewed, we have to sell from the floor, so they have to hear us talking about it. Well, when you sign them up for that basic program, you've got to be careful what you say. We don't want them to think that they just signed up for a year. We want them to know that they're on a trial program, that trial program is going to teach them some of the basics. And during that trial program, we're going to find out if they really want to be a black belt. Now, if I'm not saying this to them, they're not going to be able to pick that up. Even my subliminal messages around, if I don't explain what those mean, some of your instructors aren't good at verbalizing the black belt goal setting. They're not good at verbalizing the signage that you have on the walls. So make sure every sign that you have on the wall that refers to black belt retention, black belt goal setting, a white belt, a black belt is a white belt who never quits. Winners never quit, quitters never win. No matter what the sign is, make sure they can say, they have a little speech with that one. Because during the class, we have a unique opportunity. We have an opportunity to motivate and to inspire our students to want to be better. A lot of that is done through testimonials. By having our students that have gotten so much out of the program. But how is that going to help us if we don't get that on video? Yeah, we can have it written sometimes, but people don't know if you make that stuff up. But if you have a video testimonial, that's why if we want to get somebody in our program, we have to have an intro video. So what do we need if we want to have them renewed, Master Harrison?
We need to have our renewal video, which has testimonials from our students.
And one of the best renewal videos I've seen that you and Karis and the team there put together. And what impact did just that video have, besides all the other stuff you did, because you did a lot of other stuff that I talked about, right? But what impact just with the video, how much more did that help?
You know, that's always hard to measure, and the only way to truly know it away, and I don't want to do that. So, but obviously a huge piece of everything that we've done. And we have a lot of parents that come back with a fresh, new understanding of what we're doing. It's definitely a big piece.
You know, I have schools that tell me that they have trouble renewing students. And then I ask them, well, send me a copy of your renewal video so I can see what you're telling them. And they go, oh, I don't have a renewal video. Okay, well, how are you renewing them? And they say, well, I see how they're doing. And then if it looks like they're doing good, then I'll bring them in and I'll talk to them about our black belt program. What is that, right? That's not a plan, except a plan to fail. There's a lot more that go into prepping these renewals. We're asking somebody to make a $20,000 or $30,000 commitment for 4 to 6 years. And we want at least half our students to do that. And we have some that have 60 to 70% have done that. And to do that, there's a lot of steps. Don't forget, Master Moody and Master Oliver and I put together a very extensive renewal book together for you guys. And that renewal folder that we gave you was not for the students. We have the enrollment folder, and we expect, and I'm just assuming that everybody's using the enrollment folder, because what is the purpose of the enrollment folder, Stephen Dell?
The reason the enrollment folder is to make us understand all the steps we got to take and the dominoes we must knock down on the way to the students renewing.
And you had the right answer, except you said the first part wrong. Say the first part again.
It's for us to know.
Now change that.
For our team, for our.
Keep going. Who did you leave out?
Students.
The student folder, or is it the staff owners folder?
I thought you were, I was confused on which folder, sir. I thought you meant the one that, yeah, so
That
you mean.
would be the renewal folder that I said was for us and our staff.
And then you said the enrollment.
Enrollment folder.
Old infantry ear, sir. I misheard you.
Okay, well, just to clarify, because if you misheard it, I'm sure other people did too, right? So
Sure.
better clarify, right? Because that enrollment folder, when we put that together, I had some people thinking, oh, enrollment folder, I'm going to give that to them after the first intro. See, that's not, that folder is not to get them enrolled. That folder is to, William, what is that enrollment folder designed for?
It's for our staff to take them through the process.
Enrollment folder
Oh, enrollment folder,
is designed for,
renewal.
but who is it designed for?
It's for the student and the parents.
Absolutely. So when a student signs up, the first class, we're making an appointment for that first class after they sign the contract. And of course, before they sign that contract, they put their down payment or initial and their first monthly tuition. They signed their paperwork. And then I made an appointment for the enrollment folder that has the attendance card in it, that has the character worksheets, that has all the systems that we use in our school, from student pledges to rules of the school to testing requirements to black belt procedure and how they qualify for black belt training. You see all of this valuable information that's in there. And is Jason still on? Maybe I don't see Mr. Jason right now. Oh, there he is. And Jason was good enough when I was at his school that we actually put together a enrollment folder conference there. And he role played the parent and student with him and a couple of his staff. And I went through the enrollment folder to show you how to make sure you're presenting that enrollment folder. Because some were giving it to them in the wrong place. They were giving it to them like thinking that it was a selling tool to get them to sign up for the program, but it's to get them to renew, but we have to get them that information. Remember, the lifetime student value of your student is where we want the gross to go up to. Remember, if somebody stays 4 years with us, they're going to spend a lot more than if they only stay with us for 2 or 3 months. Everybody understand? Now, I apologize, we went over our time today, but it was just a couple basic things that I wanted to make sure we were understanding our renewal folder, our enrollment folder, our stats, and how they work and our systems that we have in place. Anybody, I know we're already over a little bit, so anybody have any questions before I sign off on it?
Sir, I'd just say, in order to eliminate some of that confusion that I think some people were experiencing, we refer to it as our student success folder. Because we were having with our staff some of that confusion too with enrollment folder and wondering how to use it. So it is set up for the student to be successful. So that's what we.
And even if we say that that's the student folder they're going to get after they sign up, and the other one is the renewal folder that is for the staff to learn how to do all the steps you have to do to renew somebody. So do review those procedures. Do make sure you're keeping your stats accurately, okay? And if you have any questions on any of those, remember, our Facebook page is your link to help 24/7. It's like a college student before the internet was like the library. You had to go to the library to get all your information. Well, now we have the internet. So now we have our Facebook page that you can ask any question 24/7 and get it answered. And if you do a little research and use the search function of our Facebook page, you can usually get it answered before you even ask it, because you can find that it's been asked 10 or more times before, and there's a whole discussion forum about it. So do your research, use your Facebook page, use your member site, because it also has tons of valuable information in its archives, and do use the search function for that. Okay. Okay. Again, let's welcome our new members. Antonius, I'm impressed you stayed for the whole time. We went a little over today, and we usually are pretty good at finishing right on time, but because Captain Cal took up our first hour, I was trying to squeeze in about an hour's worth into 30 minutes, and that didn't work so good. So
thanks for all the good information.
Thank you, sir. And everybody, don't forget about next month. Don't forget to invite your friends. It's a unique opportunity for you to help some of your fellow martial artists. And sometimes they want you to help them. You don't have time. You got to get your own gross up, but show them how we're doing it, and what a good opportunity then to come to one of our live events like that. So if you have somebody, contact Mr. Dunn, and he'll send them the information and get them hooked up. And one last thing is, on this Thursday, there is a webinar. If you have some friends that need some help in the martial arts and need some tips, have them hop on that Thursday webinar. you know, obviously it's for somebody who's not doing our program already. So it's not necessarily going to help you that much, but it could help them because it can paint them a picture of a lifeline of how we can help them. And if you need information on that, just see Mr. Dunn. Okay. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging out. Thanks,
Thank you,
Mr.
sir. See you Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.